One. Welcome to the Map It Forward podcast, everyone. And we're sorry for being a few minutes late. That was all on me with some technical malarkey. Welcome, Jimmy Canali. Hey, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good. All things considered. Excited to chat today. Thanks for reaching out the past couple weeks, and I've really enjoyed the daily conversations on Map It Forward.
It's
Super
been
fun.
it's been a pretty wild time, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
tell me in general, like, how are you feeling? How has all this craziness been affecting you?
So for those who don't know, I live in Seattle, Washington. I work for Starbucks, and I'm a manager at the Roastery. And so Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot to take in when you're a destination and you're working with a team of 100 plus people. But I think what I've been able to witness in Starbucks leadership and in my GM's leadership has allowed me to just show up and be a leader without having to worry what they're taking care of the business owner aspects.
Mm-hmm.
So I can show up and be that much stronger as a leader, both for myself and for the people around me and the team of managers. Um, I feel like we all are on the same page with that. And the baristas and the partners we work with, yeah, we're just able to just dive into those conversations and build those relationships, and everybody's taking it pretty easy. Um, but yeah, it's complex. It's not straightforward, but I'm trying to just stay grounded, so I can continue to just show up and be present in the moment. Um, yeah.
That's such a great way to put it. It's complex. Like at the end of the day, everything that's happening right now is beyond anything any of us have been trained for, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
complex is the right kind of way to put it because we're processing intellectually, we're processing emotionally, and we're trying to be incredibly professional throughout all of this while we're in literally fight or flight mode. And
Hmm.
yeah, it causes people to do different things. I am noticing that people are either showing up as the true leaders that they are without, and a lot of people without them even realizing that they were like that. And then I'm starting to see people show up in ways of completely opposite to what they have
Mm.
typically been, which they've held leadership positions and they've gone dark, they've gone silent, they haven't shown up for their people at all, or they've turned aggressive. And, I am looking at all of it and saying, you've got to kind of meet people where they're at for a lot of it.
Hmm.
But the complexity of it is showing us the character of people.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
really do get to see like people's true character in moments like this, don't you think? Or
Hmm.
do you think?
Well, I feel like,
We don't have to
again,
agree,
it's to
remember?
answer, and I think answering anything straightforward is hard right now. To be able to say this is their true character, to me, it's just a picture of their character in this
That's
situation.
a great way to put it.
And people are just, some people aren't made, they're made for safer environments, or they're made for something that's more straightforward, or they just might need more time. I know for me, I like I love valuing very different perspectives, and I take my time to process. At the same time, I show up, in some ways I deal with all my anxiety at home, between me and my higher power, between me and my own practice of
Mm-hmm.
just stress management. And then I try and show up and be a leader with and vulnerable and honest. I'm not trying to hide stuff, but um, I try and at least separate the stress, so I can see a little clearer of just what's in front of me right
Mm-hmm.
now. So I feel like I'm trying to focus on what's right in front of me, and then zoom way up and see, okay, what's going on just as the biggest picture possible. How do I get both of those perspectives? It's hard to I mean, I'm thinking of I'm on the Barista Guild of Washington just Facebook page and seeing countless business owners and cafe owners just having to relieve their teams, and then the the shitstorm of stuff they have to swarm through. I mean, it came through like a typhoon in the service industry, of just wiping out businesses in Seattle. I mean, it is absolutely wild, the impact of businesses, even above that of the virus. And Seattle, I think, Seattle, King County is second in the states, I think, for impact compared to New York. But I think the bigger impact has been the immediate impact to businesses. And that was before any shutdowns. That was just like literally the drop of people just going ghost. And there were still people trying to support each other, but it's just in context of the early stages of that.
Are you allowed to talk about what the messaging was like? And I totally understand if you're not, but are you allowed to talk about like the way that Starbucks went into action once this became something that they knew that they had to shift from with regards to business as usual?
I'll speak in general terms.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll just speak in general terms. And for everybody else, I mean, it's just kind of something you have to say. I do not represent Starbucks.
That's good
I'm
to
representing myself.
Yep, good to say.
And yeah, that's all.
Jimmy's here as a friend of mine. Jimmy's not here as a representative of Starbucks. Jimmy is here and been invited here because he's a thinker. He's in our industry. He deals in a part of our industry that typically is a little different to the small scale specialty coffee shop, but his Starbucks is still considered specialty coffee, and we talk about stuff, Jimmy and I. And so I wanted to just invite him on because, you know, he thinks about things in a different way. So
Thanks.
You're welcome. I appreciate your perspective on a lot of things. You're somebody who doesn't just accept the status quo, and you think and you ponder and you flip stuff upside down, and I like that about people.
It's mutual appreciation.
Thank you, sir.
In that regard.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, I have been known to think about a thing or two.
Okay, yeah, you're back.
Great.
And say a thing or two.
Sorry?
And say a thing or two.
Yeah, hey, and I really don't apologize about any of that. You know, it's one of those things of, hopefully there were a couple of people that listened to the messaging that was coming through on this podcast since late January and thought, you know, she might sound crazy right now, but what if she's not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And those who did kind of listen have been prepared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yes, I say a few things,
well,
and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll shout out the couple of gals that are in my life that I asked to watch this, Jordan and Joy. I just encourage you to check out these. Just go back, look through her stuff, just because of who she is as a voice. And
thanks.
Yeah. With that, Starbucks.
Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt.
No, there's just someone's just left a comment. Leaders in all fields are more emotionally exposed than ever. I agree that this hasn't necessarily caused leaders to show their true colors, but it's just a new level of vulnerability. And that's exactly what I mean by it shows people's true character, in that they're reacting to things in such real time that having the filters that they typically would have up, having the frame of reference to be like, oh shit, I have to do this, or I have to have this guard up, or I have to... No. People who are true leaders, without trying to be leaders, are just showing up at the moment, and it's beautiful to watch. It's just so lovely to see people who have spent the time building their character, just realizing that they need to show up right now, and they just are. They're not trying to be something that they're not, and that's a really lovely thing. And that's what I mean by people's character is showing up. People who are selfish, that's also showing up as well. And And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not judging anyone for this. What I'm saying is, when we're in times of crisis, people don't have the luxury of checking themselves before they act. They just tend to respond. And that does cause people's authenticity to come forward. Good or bad, I mean, I don't believe in the frame of reference of good or bad. I just think that things are. And so when somebody shuts down a business because they're looking after themselves, even though they've got access to the means to take care of their stuff, that's one thing. But then it's a different thing when someone shuts down their business, fires their staff, and says, look, I want to be able to hire you again later. And so what I'm trying to do right now is X, Y, and Z. The difference there is that one has just shut down, fired everyone and said, take care of yourself. The other has shown up and explained and shown leadership and had the forward thinking to frame the act in a way that makes sense to the people who they're
Mm-hmm.
leading. And so I think it really is. And look, I might be wrong. But that's just my perspective. It's been wonderfully fascinating to observe an enormous amount of people who are just reacting to this and showing a lot of their truth. And a lot of the time, it's really wonderful to see that truth comes forward as compassion and empathy and vulnerability and all of those kinds of things. But then on the other side of that, what we see is that it's coming through as other things.
Mm-hmm.
And when people teach you who they are, you should believe them.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing that you did early on, and we can come back to the Starbucks question, but one thing you did early on that I think I would just encourage a lot of people to just get in this frame of mind is you invited people to support the podcast, and their support would go to giving someone either a part-time
Right.
job or like a freelance work. And I think that level of both collaboration and creative generosity has to come forward now. I think everybody needs to be thinking, what other industries can I partner with? What other people can I partner with? How do I just take care of the base needs
Right.
of my community, my team or their store? Make sure that commit to building a relationship with those people. I think no matter what happens, and then just be transparent as far as everything else. But I think the ability to get creative right now and scale things out and invite your team to have a voice is huge. Yeah.
You know what I want to ask you on that. You're an empathetic guy. You have a sense for where things are at. Do you think that with regards to where we're at with this, we've still got time for that?
For creative thinking?
Yeah. Let me kind of give you a frame of reference for where I'm coming from with that. The conversation's going to shift soon, right? You know, we're going to start talking at the evolution of what's going on is going to get quite dark.
Mm.
And it's like we've had phases of this. We've had like the immediate panic. Well, there was the pre-panic where people were like confused. Is this happening? Is this not happening? Then there was the panic of, oh, fuck, this is happening. And then there's the thing that comes after that, right? And people are trying to figure out like, actually, how serious is this? And how am I going to survive? And et cetera, et cetera. And if I'm going to survive, I better get my entrepreneurial hat on. Okay. And so they get their entrepreneurial hat on and they realize, actually, this whole business thing isn't anywhere near as easy as I thought it was. So all this is happening and people are still moving around the world and doing all this stuff and the virus is spreading, et cetera, et cetera. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And pretty soon they're going to start reporting the mortality rate. All the while, people are not paying attention to what's going on in here and what's going on in here. And they're just reacting. soon enough, everything's going to come to a halt. And then people are going to be left with the silence of what's coming.
Mm.
And I hate to get dark, but I feel the reason we wanted to have a chat was because we wanted to talk about mental health as we move through this.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's irresponsible of us to, as a podcast that people are turning to right now, it's irresponsible of us not to be having the very real conversations. And I wonder if the window is closing for that creativity and it's time for us to just get still soon.
Well, I think with the creative piece, I think I would tie that and maybe rephrase it to the relationship building. Like that's
Community?
the pivotalness, and tying it to resources. So like, for example, and I'm just going to do whatever, make one up. I can't keep running my business, but I do have capacity to make sure my team is fed. I have a whole network of people that I can tie and just get savvy with how do we do work together, and just starting to talk amongst everybody's own little network and communities, and starting to build a little bit of maybe micro tribes, and just collecting resources and banding together that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what I love about that is that, especially for people who spend a lot of time on their own, and that is a thing in our society these days. People are very isolated. They tend to spend time away from people, but they still have enough of an outlet whereby they get to go to work and be around a community, and it's just how our industry is, right? So they get the social interaction from work, and then they come home and they're on their own. And for people who are like that, realizing that there is no more of the going to work and being around people, or it will be ending soon for some time, and then you're stuck with you. And putting in the investment now to building these micro communities so that once that silence comes, it's not so silent, I think is just so important, right?
Yeah.
It's the strangest thing, right?
I'm just going to dive into that for a second. First year of being a manager, it was the thing I'd been working for like 5 years. So, I was excited. I was workaholic, jumping all in an exciting way. And as I kind of was coming around that first year, something my mentor, Catherine, was kind of prompting me on, because I am kind of that empathetic, mystically artistic, sensitive guy who likes I'm going to spend alone time. I'm going to get in a contemplative place. I'm going to totally enjoy that. But that was starting to work against me. And I know that's I'm an extreme. I'm not normal in that regard. But the challenge was just to be like, go out, get into community, and go meet funky groups of people and just start building community. And so for that next year, I just went to random meetups where you're doodling, drawing. I even started going to religious group stuff, which I totally didn't want to do. And it ended up finding just solid, normal people in unexpected places, and have been, it's like the stock market on that just went through the roof.
Really?
Like the support, or like the ability to watch some stupid movie last night on Netflix and share a Zoom, and everybody's laughing. And if someone is super dire, we're there. And some of us are in the health industry and service. And so we can all relate in these different ways. And we're just there for each other. It's people we know. And so it's just additional community. And the hindsight is effing 2020 for everybody at this point. But that's just one thing, that I'm grateful for. To build that now, people have the internet in their hands. So I think, and they have us. if you're listening, you have Lee, you have me, you can reach out. Like, don't
Every
minimize
day.
one two
Every day
people.
around 4 p.m. Pacific time on Instagram, we do an Instagram live. So,
Hmm.
if you don't have anywhere to go, you have somewhere to go. It's there. We do it
Yeah.
every day, and we don't do it for anything other than you. We're there to show up so that we can hold a space for anybody that needs it for whatever they want to share during the
Hmm.
day. And if you haven't been to our Instagram, it's at imapitforward. And we're going to show up 7 days a week, every day till the end of this. And I don't know what the end of this means. Like, is that when, I don't know, the World Health Organization declares that this is over and that it's under control? And I don't know if that's, 3 months from now or 13 months from now. Who knows? But at the end of the day, we're just going to show up, because I think the one thing that this is showing all of us is that whatever your relationship to community is, it can't escape any of us. I'm quite a hermit. I'm an introverted extrovert. I spend right. For anyone who couldn't see, he was doing
I'll do it.
this
I'll eat my vegetables if I have to. I'll be with people if I
as
have to.
yeah, exactly. Like, and that's what I'm saying with this. Like, for people like me who have to be forced to hang out with people in a big group, it's this is showing me how to show up and when to show up, and that I have to show up. And I am grateful for that. We're all growing heart muscles and mind muscles that we didn't know we had to grow.
Mhm.
And for me, that's the heart muscle that I have to grow. One of them is community. And I'm loving it. I'm loving showing up once a day to an Instagram live and just seeing how everyone is. I'm not going to have any answers. But I know that I've got some background training as a counselor, and I've got other people taking over when it all gets a little bit too much for me. And
Mhm.
that's lovely to know that there are people that are saying, hey, listen, if this gets too much, why don't you tap out for a day? And I got you.
Mhm.
That is feeding my mental health and my emotional health in lots of ways. Do you feel, Jimmy, that the fact that we're all in this together is helpful?
I think the difference between this and some of the past pandemics, and I mean that more metaphorically, World War II, stuff like that, just big world tragedies, um, is now more than ever there's an interconnection between people via the internet. Um, there's a hyper socialization in some ways, even though it might be shallow, but
I like
they know
I
people.
like that word, hyper socialization. I've not heard that word before. So is what you mean by that is people are looking to connect with a lot more people than they normally would?
That and even just in passing, people's networks are exponentially larger than they were a decade ago, and
Oh,
definitely
okay. From pandemic to pandemic.
earlier than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and um, there's ability to just be in this all together for sure. And I think the internet's a great connecting point.
Mm.
Um, and being stuck in our houses is a good. I mean, we've all been put in straight up timeout. Seattle definitely is in
I
timeout.
like that. Being put in
West
timeout.
Seattle got banned. The bridge closed. They hung out on the weekend at the beach, and they just got in like solitary confinement timeout.
Really?
It was just, it's hilarious. They can still go around, but I don't know what the real reason for the closing of the bridge was, but I'd say they got put in extra timeout.
Can you imagine? I was thinking about this yesterday. Can you imagine if we didn't have the technology that we have right now and this happened with this many people on the planet? Imagine
Yeah.
we couldn't talk to each other, we couldn't communicate with each other imagine we were just using telephones. Are you too young to remember what it was like to have to ring someone on a
No, I used to memorize. You had the one piece
yeah,
of paper with
yeah,
everybody's
and it
phone
was just
number.
above.
And you had
Yeah,
to,
your mum would put it
I
above
still
the
remember Nana's, whatever it was, the
yeah,
twirly
the
phone.
dial. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know that back then. Can you imagine if this happened then? Can
Yeah.
you imagine that? How many
Been
people
thinking
would
about that.
be?
What if the internet does go out? You know?
Well, if the internet goes out, we're at least in a phase of this where we know stay the fuck home. We've
Mhm.
at least communicated that, right? And we at least have enough satellite connections that the people who are meant to look after us, so the armed forces and the police and the fire brigades, they have alternative mechanisms through satellite phones and things like that to at least let us know when this is finished. But there will
Yeah.
be accelerated deaths. There will be people who can't get in touch with, um, health services and ambulances and things like that.
Hmm.
It's being a foreigner in a country is very strange at a time like this
Mm.
because so here in people have been telling me to get a gun. Strangers who like I was having a conversation with my neighbor and we were talking about how all the gun shops are sold out, and a man walking past said to
Wow.
me, "You should get a gun. The government's got too much power right now."
Wow.
Like, wow, how fascinating is that? It's such a cultural difference between Australia and America. It's very interesting observing this and observing the culture here in the US of the way that people react versus the way that people in Australia will react when they get to the same space that we're at. They won't, no one will be looking for weapons. No one will be looking to steal from each other. That's just not the way it will go.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I mean, people even in the building that I live in are panicked and sending text messages to each other saying, the government's coming, they're taking over the streets, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, in my country, if the government's out there, they're there to take care of you. With regards to the army, I mean, people are worried
Hmm.
about the army being on the streets, the military being on the streets. I'm like, the Australian military would never get on the streets unless they were ready to take care of everyone. And I
Hmm.
would assume the same thing of here. And
Yeah.
and I do, like, at the end of the day, if I see military tanks around here, I'm assuming they're doing it because of to keep people safe. But that's not culturally, it's not the frame of mind here.
Yeah.
It's something I don't understand.
Yeah. And I mean, that's where I think there's a level of like being able to think about this stuff, but then step back. And I think the mental health piece of like, there is a corporate energy right now that will take people in, will keep people in this negative space, will take people into panic attacks, like at a rate that, I mean, an alarming rate. Um, and I think there's a lot of stuff to really be concerned about, but I think, um, as we get into it, it's just like, there's so much we can do. And I think having a plan to start building up your heart and your head and your spirit um, is pivotal now. Just so you can start observing from different, it's like getting muscles built so you can observe from different points of view and
Right.
just like being able to take in data, but it doesn't take out your system. It's like it doesn't hot wire, it doesn't, it's like the alarm system goes off, but it doesn't take control of the whole processing system.
This I
If
like.
I can
Tell
use
me
that
more.
metaphor.
Tell me more.
So I think for me, like, so again, something a mentor just continually challenges me to do, and especially because work at the pace that I work at, the volume of a place like the roastery just requires so much attention, so much focus.
Yeah.
Something my mentor requires, maybe Catherine, asked me to do is just step up, get the big picture,
Yeah.
keep getting the big picture, and then also get the multiple perspectives, which is so fun. Even just us, like being able to share multiple perspectives and then get the orbit, start looking around, start putting yourself in different situations. And so as we do that, I think um, there's that ability of just being able to practice getting the bigger picture. But to get there, um, I think we do have to build up kind of the strength of new ways of processing information. And for me, a lot of the work that I got into and in just self exploration is mindfulness techniques, is continuing to build out my spiritual practice, and then continuing to diversify just other holistic things for mental health, diet, my green juice, other self care things, to continue to put myself in a state of being able to break down and build back up. But like most ignored place, I think, in our culture, and I know for me, not ignored, but what what was required to operate at high performance required me to grow a lot and more the internal world that it's not even built up. I don't think it's been in people's. I mean, I think insignificant to a lot of people, the internal world right now, and for sure the spiritual world is. People are so polarizing about that it's like that's people can't even engage there right now. So I think where we do start is around mindfulness stuff, because until we can even manage our stress, we can't see the ability to see multiple perspectives and think about creative things. It's creative breakthroughs are stuck behind our stress and our panic right now. Um,
I like that. I think what you're saying is that the panic or the phase of panic that people are in is keeping them away from the thing that would probably be the most helpful for them right now, which is stillness. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I used I used a lot of words, but I the peace is priceless right now, and it's not ignorance to be at peace and to meditate and to try to actively push yourself into peace and stillness.
I feel like the planet's doing it for us. You know what I mean?
It's definitely presented the opportunity.
Exactly. I feel like
you have two extreme alternatives for sure.
You can freak the fuck out or you can sit the fuck down. It's one of those things of, and this is what I'm talking about with regards to character. If you have put the time into building your character over the years, you will see the opportunity that's being presented right now, and you will recognize that this is out of your control. This is not one of I use the analogy of the dragon again and again and again. I keep using it around this scenario. This is not like somebody took a match and burnt your house with the match and started a fire that way. A dragon showed up and torched your house with people you love in it, people you work with in it. All of your work was in it, and you happen to be standing outside of it. And thinking that you need to go into action right now at this stage, I mean, if going into action at this stage, perhaps you're doing that just so that you can feel busy. When right now, perhaps in that situation, what you might need is just to surrender and observe yourself. And it's that peace of mind that you're talking about, right? That mindfulness that, hey, what is this mirror that has just been put up in front of me? And how much of it do I like? And how much of it do I not like? And it's hard to look at.
Yeah.
Because everything has been eviscerated without me having a say in it. And I'm so used to having control. And now all of that has been taken away. And what do I do? And I think that's where we kind of have to figure out what is my, what do I do now?
Mhm.
How do I show up with grace? How do I show up with compassion? How do I show up with empathy? Or do I choose to not show up with any of that? Do I completely go into a defense kind of strategy and vomit my anxiety all over everybody?
Mhm.
Because we all know people that are doing that right now.
Yeah.
So I think your comments are really great. That idea of, right now is all about mindfulness. And I wonder if the time for people keep saying that they want to get creative and entrepreneurial now. And a week ago, I would have said, if you could jump on that, do it. This has gone so quick
Mhm.
that I don't know that the time for that is now for some people.
Yeah.
But having said that, the way I think that the world goes is, if you're going to try and avoid again and again and again and again, that's fine. You do what you need to do. The world, whatever you call it, the universe, the simulation, God, whatever you call it, has a way of bringing back the lessons that you need to learn.
Mhm.
That's been my observation anyway.
Yeah.
Has that been your observation?
In my life, yes.
Right?
I think, I mean, yeah, it's, I mean, without a doubt, there's nothing to me, nothing slides. Like if you don't learn the lesson, it's going to repeat itself. If you don't learn to stand your ground and share your conscience, it's going to
Mm.
follow you. I think as far as people's addiction to working, um, I think in one part, um, I know for my team, like it's like, hey, work if it helps you get distracted, if you're doing creative work that's going to help you get distracted, commit to your partners, commit to your team. And I think the first day I was at home, I mean, I think I worked straight 8 hours without breathing, and I was like, hold up, Jimmy, slow down. Like if there is a message in any of this, like this is so much deeper than the creative work you've been dying to get to. But as someone who's in all operations with a creative mind, it's like, yeah, but this is my one chance. And like, there's just an anxiety even about being creative. And
Tell me
I,
about that. You feel like you
uh,
need to be busy, you need to be using the time really well.
no, not anymore. That was, but I
I
imagine
can so relate to that right now.
I imagine some people can relate to that.
So
Um,
many people are
like
saying
to
it that they're
accomplish
like
something,
excited.
to accomplish something. And while I think the gift of time is huge, I think again, this is where I do think it's complex. I don't think it is. There's a lot of different situations out there, and I think the gift of time now is going to be huge for people, and whether that is creative entrepreneurial stuff or mindfulness, um, it is the resource that most of us have right now. Um,
Time.
time and yeah.
I want to talk to you about fear, because we can't have a conversation about mental health and not acknowledge that fear is a real, I guess, it's a real trigger for so many people right now, in that they're going to use this time as a way to avoid the inevitable fear that's going to show up. And the fear is not just, am I going to get sick or not sick? The fear is, I've got to spend time with myself. I've got to take a look at what my life is. I've got to accept the reality of what this situation is.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on the impact that fear has on people right now?
Um, I'll start with just me personally.
Yeah.
Again, I think if I can see some of the themes of how I process emotions, one, when maybe I'm sensing stuff beyond myself, just like the world at large or my community or even just deep emotions from myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think it all comes at once. It's just like this big hit. All my senses are just overwhelmed. It's like I am sensing just fear and panic, and it's not even necessarily connected to a certain thought I had. Um, and so, I mean, that does trigger me to stop and go, okay, have a prayerful, meditative moment, and go, just slow down. Like, what is this about? And try to get above it to just see like is this because I'm letting anxiety continue to come in? Because right now it feels like it's coming in huge waves. Like
Yeah.
every day there's just one
Tsunamis.
moment where it's just like crash.
Yeah.
And like it could be like, oh, I glanced at an email that was sent from someone and maybe they
Yes.
were afraid, whatever. Like I get a piece of data or something maybe disconnected. I'm so worried about X. And all of a
Listening to the
sudden
news
X
too
is like
much.
is amplified by 1,000 degrees. And yeah, I mean, it's not, I'm afraid of the coronavirus. It's no, there's fear because of the coronavirus. And it's just playing out in people's heads, I think, a million different ways. And um, for me, it's just like, okay, the landscape, the invisible landscape of just emotions for myself. And I think for the world is changing, and there is so much to think through and deal with. But to me, like I mean, yeah, equipping yourself with meditation,
Say that again, Jimmy. So, equipping yourself with meditation.
with meditative tools is pivotal right now.
Right. I couldn't agree more.
Um,
It's one of those scenarios that if you have put the time into understanding who you are and learning who you are and growing from who you are, I think that that's going to be incredibly useful right now. That will serve you right now. And if you haven't, there are a lot of apps out there that will help you learn how to do it.
mhm.
You know, I think fear is such a great mentor. It's such a great teacher of things. But its cousin, courage, is the one that's going to connect the two of you.
Mhm.
Because if you're not prepared to see fear for what it is, it's going to be that thing that will just hurt you constantly. Whereas if you're kind of prepared to see it for what it is and be there with it, the investment of courage and discomfort pays you back a bazillion fold.
Yeah. Yeah. On what Lee is saying, everybody, you are going to be feeling things
Yeah.
amplified and probably more amplified than it already has been. Uh, Whatever the timeline of this is, the world as we know it is changing. And
Permanently.
while there is, yeah, and I think, I mean, there is a beauty to that, and that's going to come at a cost as well. And I think a big thing now is not letting the pain of this transition of whatever it is go to waste. Um, that I mean, there's so many lessons here on so many different
Oh, yeah,
levels
there
for
is.
all of us. The preparation, um, the ability to have strong communities that are robust to whatever the government system is, and that's not like they're outside it, but I mean like you're just it's just built in a way. Communities can be built in a way where there's support no matter what. And I don't think that for sure wasn't in place because we're all just so tied into our own lives right
Uh huh.
now. Um, and yeah, I mean, the lessons are countless. I mean, 20 years from now, when the books have been written, like, and I'm someone who has a lot of hope, and I don't mean hope as like this is all just positive. This is all like it's going to be okay. This is over next week. I mean hope as in no, it's worth believing in big things can come that there will be a collateral beauty to what's going on. But this is going to come at a huge cost. This is going to come in the context of immense. I mean the chaos and the negative impact right now to the world is huge. Um, and so, yeah, this is why we are talking about mental health
Yeah.
because the return on investment of mental health now is is going to be huge. Is a need. Even I mean, there's no even if this turns into nothing. This is changing everything, and mental health again um, is pivotal. Like your life, you have to see this as big as toilet paper, as
Did
big
you ever
as
think you'd say that? Did you ever think there
uh,
was a reality where you
this
would
is
say
your
that mental health was on the same status as toilet paper?
no. What's the Australian bidet thing? How do you pronounce it?
The
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 uh
bidet?
the little spray, the bidet. This is your mental health is your bidet. Your
Oh God.
I ruined that
Yeah.
for
I mean,
people.
for me, the thing that I've been trying to drive home for people is this is going to like embrace the suck, as far as David Goggins would say. This is one of those things of if you, whatever you work you put in right now into your own mental health, it will be amplified in rewards for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
Doing hard shit is really hard and uncomfortable, and you are going to try and get back to normal as quickly as possible once this is all over, and you will have lost the opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
Now you are being forced into the discomfort of this. And I mean, I'm somebody who constantly stays in that discomfort because it's the place of greatest learning. But I
Yeah.
got
That's
there
huge.
because I had been pushed into situations like this on a personal level a number of times and realized that I was growing so much every time that I realized that the best place for me to be was always one foot in excited and one foot in anxious with anything that I was doing, and always just a little bit uncomfortable. And the way that I force myself into that is always doing hard things. And so when I'm always doing hard things, I'm never quite comfortable. I can't remember the last time I was comfortable in my life.
Mm.
And so this is modus operandi for me. And in that kind of a situation, it's like, all right, so what my role is in this is to help people understand how to move through this with grace. Which is also like trying to say to people, how do you have diarrhea with grace? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's it is what it is. And
Yeah.
it's gonna be ugly. But you can always step in the shower afterwards.
Yeah.
Let it be messy. Be as messy as it needs to be. But if I could implore you to do anything, let it be honest. Don't give in to the rage. Don't give in to the destruction and dysfunction and addiction and all of that kind of stuff. Like, use this as an opportunity to get as close to your authentic fears as possible. Look them in the face. Give them a kiss on the cheek and let them go.
Yeah.
That's where the peace comes from. Something I'm really scared of right now, Jimmy,
Mm.
is the potentiality for the suicide rate to go up
Mm.
because of people's. There's a big portion of the population that doesn't do well on their own.
Yeah.
And so they self-medicate or they drink or they do a variety of other things to let you see that you are, well, that they're okay, you know? So I am concerned for the people who are going to be at home that aren't capable or that struggle in a big way to process emotion. What do you have to say to them,
Um,
if anything?
I mean, yeah, I think for me, I think one piece of it comes back to if people are familiar with a 12-step program, um,
Mm-hmm.
there's just portions of it of how life is uncontrollable. And you've admitted that you can't even manage your own life. And you've admitted that there's some sort of higher power out there who can help you recover. Um, and so I think it's like owning the day, the step by step. It's like what's in our hands, the ability to reach out and connect with people. I think right now there's a window um, to relationships, maybe that weren't the worst relationships in our lives, like abusive ones or predatory ones, but adjacent ones that lost or disconnected or fragmented over time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we can connect. And I think if we know people as well who struggle with being alone, I think um, Simple Habit is offering their meditation app for anyone in financial need for free or at different discounts. Like you just
What's it
email them
called?
and Simple Habit.
Okay.
Um, and
Do you use that one?
I did, but now Starbucks offered Headspace, and I'm a big fan of Calm, so I use Headspace and
Okay.
Calm. But I've used
Is
Simple Habit.
is that Tim Ferriss's one or Sam
I
Harris's? I think it's Sam Harris's one.
oh, I've heard of him, the Simple Habit.
Yeah, I think that may be his book. Is it his book?
I don't rem uh, I don't know.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, I
a
think
meditation app, right?
yeah. I mean, we can offer that. I think the hard thing is it's in people's hands to utilize that stuff. But I mean,
But you
you
got to
know,
do it.
you can, but us reaching out, like being able to make those small connects, um, is big. And so, or if you're someone listening who struggles with being alone, I think, again, like take one small step a day to connect with people. Take one small step,
Yeah.
learn one small thing about meditation. Um, challenge your approach to it. Like you got to be open to like, this isn't the most easy thing. You're going to get distracted with the depression or your anxiety. I think there's a lot there. And I think it's, if you're hungry and you're struggling, but you're hungry for something new, like that's where it's like, you're starting with the right ingredient. But if you know someone who's struggling, I think it's just worth, making that moment.
Yeah, wow. I love that. Is meditation something that comes easy to you?
No, no. And to be fair, so people
Me
know,
either.
I went to a spiritual school and I stayed in my room and meditated and I enjoyed it, but like I've spent years meditating and I kind of became disenfranchised little space cadet. And then my mentor said I eventually became a space invader. Um, I haven't I don't feel like I've gotten in a rhythm until recently, just because I'm starting to approach it from so many different angles. And some of the big things is like breaking it down to approach, practice, and integration,
Mm-hmm.
and just going, okay, my approach is I am going to get distracted, like laugh at myself when I do, like give myself grace when I like literally suck at meditation. Like every time I meditate, I am distracted. I go, oh, I just wasted that. I wasted that much. But then that's your jumping, your little springboard right into the rest of the meditation. So knowing the landscape of meditation it is the easiest way to kind of create mindfulness. Um, but it's just one way. Like it might be cooking or talking to your dog, or I have Kermit the Muppet. Maybe it's playing with Kermit. I don't know what it is for people.
So meditation is
Um,
what you're saying is meditation isn't you can do meditation and then there are other things that are meditative.
is exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Drawing, doodling, poetry, all of that stuff, or
Cooking.
cooking, or
Yeah.
being able to
Jinx.
eventually the goal would be I you can figure it out to do it. Master class, you're figuring it out as you're working, as you're moving, but it's because you've learned those micro lessons of grace and self forgiveness and self love in that process. And if that's religious language, get over it, because people, and not Lee, but people, everyone, all of us, um, we need to get over the fact that meditation and mindfulness is adjacent to religion and spirituality, but it isn't those things. It is something we can all come to the table to. Um, and it's totally approachable. I think the apps have help socialize it, but I think only in small pockets. Um, Huge shout out for Starbucks for getting people the Headspace
I
app.
think
I
it's
mean, that couldn't have been
wonderful.
like,
It's up there with making sure people are fed.
mm-hmm.
It's
And they've done a thing with counseling as well. Like you can get in, I mean, a super extended amount of counseling sessions for you and your family, and they're, they're being, especially for big companies. I know that's a
but
challenge for small ones.
that's just so wonderful. I mean, the fact that people can work for an organization, and look, have a lot to say about whether Starbucks is this and Starbucks is that, but at the end of the day, they're showing up for their people in the ways that
Mm-hmm.
people need them to show up right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it just shows in how, even though there's anxiety and processing of the partners that I like, there is the safety net of the leaders are continuing to push in, um, and make the right decisions, and lead ahead of this, and the way they're taking care of people with the catastrophe pay and making sure people are fed. You can go to any Starbucks as an employee and get a free mark out. They're
What
taking
does a
care of
free
the
mark
people
out
who
mean?
are having a food
Oh, okay.
So typically it's only if you're working on your shift, but and you can get two if you're working. I mean, there's just all sorts of small things like that.
Which are
And then the
huge.
people who do have to work at the drive-throughs or I think the Starbucks and other places that are open, like hospitals, they're getting taken care of really well as too.
Yeah, wow. And hats off for that to Starbucks, because it's just such a challenging time, and when you can show up and be there in the ways that are most essential, because look, money isn't everything right now. Everybody's in the same situation. Mental health is probably the most valuable thing that you can maintain right now, because not having
Yeah.
mental health is perhaps going to leave you more vulnerable to behaving in a way that could either get you getting the virus or get you not a part of a community right now. Right now, community is everything, even if it's just for 10
Yeah.
minutes a day, even if it's just with a few people. But community is going to be the
Mhm.
thing that stops you from going down a rabbit hole where you feel isolated and alone and unsupported. And in moments
Mhm.
of things like a pandemic, that can be a worse virus to have than the coronavirus.
And it is a virus. Like it will take over your
It,
system.
yeah,
Like
oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. What are your hopes for people throughout this?
I mean, the stuff before this that kept me up at night is like, man, how do I affect culture? How do I impact culture?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm thinking like Martin Luther King, like and not me personally, but I want to be part of something big that changes
On
culture.
that scale.
So I can't get over the opportunity of guys like, this is an effing way. And when I say change culture, that means getting over our shit
Yeah.
and into something positive. So I don't mean it as like, I'm not. This isn't a flowery, positive thinking type of statement. It's like, no, like amidst this metaphoric war zone, like, or there's so much going on right now. We have
Yeah.
an opportunity to choose values that we can stand on the rest of our life, and to let go of shit that has stopped us from being authentic, has stopped us from being generous, has stopped us from this think from generational. We've been so selfish, and I'm gonna own that too. I've been so selfish and not thought generational. And I'm someone who tries to challenge myself to do that. But again, I'm just part of a culture that is about the self, about the ego. And it is time to let go of that. It's time to build a future that goes far past our effing lives. Like, it needs to go far into the future. And we can't underestimate the super small beginning of all we have right now is time and each other. Like, that is enough dynamite power to make COVID, to take revenge on COVID. And I don't know how you get a bigger effing impact than negatively, but like, to me, like, there is no negative. It is science. If there's this much negative, then there can be this much positive. And there is this much negative because we have sowed into just stupid thinking, and there's so much. It's not judgment towards America. It's not judgment towards all the leadership. Everybody is responsible for this mess. And I don't know where it's not a human responsibility, because it's a virus, so it's far beyond my realm of thinking. But I do know what is in our hands right now is an opportunity to change, because there is so much pain, and because this is putting so much limitation, so much bullshit in front of us. The human beings were made to deal with bullshit. Like, we're half made of bullshit some days, and like, we're half made to just deal with it. Like, if we can't figure this out, then you weren't born an angel. So wake up call to I know it's a wake up call. I'll just own that for me. Obviously, everybody else is good. No, they're not.
It's someone was asking me this morning, like, what do you think comes at the end of this? What do you think will be? And I said, I think the jury's out on that. We're either going to, there are going to be some people who take this moment, grow heart muscles, grow mind muscles, and realize the value in that exercise. And the moment everything's safe, they keep working on maintaining those muscles. The other option is that people see this situation, recognize how vulnerable they've become, and say, fuck you to the world. I'm going to make sure that this never happens to me again. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to become a savage, and I'm going to make sure that I take everything that I can for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that next time this happens, I don't have to worry about hoarding toilet paper because I've already got it.
Yeah.
And I think that the world is going to be made up with a dilution of those two types of people.
Yeah, that is unfortunately incredibly true.
And I think that how we emerge from this is going to be determined by what the dilution of that is. And so if we have a greater concentration of people who are thinking with regards to the first scenario, I think that we have a world that's tipped in the scales of more compassion and more empathy and showing up for each other, and we end up in a better world. But if the scales are tipped in the direction of the second scenario, where people are just like, shit, I can never be back there again, I never want to be vulnerable again, etc., then I think it's a harsher world. But who knows at this stage what it's going to look like? It's definitely going to be a mixture of those two things. And I have no idea what the concentration of each of those things is going to be, but whatever it is, go ahead.
Well, I think that's where the generational leadership comes in, of like, we don't have control over so much. Like, as leaders, as people who want to lead, anyone who wants to lead and wants to bring change, like, do your part, but no, you're just passing the torch and planting the seed sometimes. And hopefully, like, again, we can continue to build. This can get momentum. And to me, that's where it's like, fuck, I'm gonna own those seeds getting planted, and I'm gonna own carrying that torch. And yeah, Yeah, I won't be shocked if a lot of the world tries to go back as normal. Obviously, everybody's going to change a little bit. I don't I don't underestimate a few leaders making big rumbles from this. I do think culture is uniquely open. The world is uniquely open right now to something else and something different. Um, and so I know that that's there. I don't know
Yeah.
what the results will be. I don't know.
Neither do I. And I hope that we take the opportunity and don't squander it. We have an
Hmm.
extraordinary opportunity in the history of our lifetime to course correct. And I hope that we take the opportunity to course correct in a way that is mindful of the generations coming after us and is mindful of the planet and is mindful of all of that stuff. And that when we do course correct, we put it back together in a way that comes from a place of love rather than fear. Does that make sense?
It feels right. I mean, it makes sense to me. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of people are like going to call bullshit on putting the love or putting the world back together by love, but like those
But from
people
a perspective of love is
yeah,
what I
to
mean.
me, I am all in. I just to me it this has revealed how
Speak
no
freely,
one
Jimmy.
has
Don't,
no
I mean, this is
leader,
not the place
no
to filter yourself in a conversation like this. Well, in a
I love
conversation like this, it's not a place to filter yourself.
yeah. It, no leader, no one has it, there's nothing that can stop us from making a difference. And I
Right.
think um, it just goes to show the powers that we think are in charge really aren't in charge. And and we can make a difference. And I mean that on a very intimate level. Like I can make a difference, and it's like us. Yeah, the small things that are in our hands. I just truly do believe in that power, and people might call BS on that because it's it's not big enough thinking. But I think no, because I think am trying to get up above it all and see the big picture. It is the only thing that makes a difference is if I own the things that are in my hands, that are in my control. Everything from mental health to my relationships to my job. Like, yeah,
I couldn't
to
agree
me
more.
that
It's
no one can control that. That is
no.
that is up to me. And and I think the world's realizing, oh, I didn't invest rightly. I fucked up.
Yeah. I love that. It's in a conversation I was having earlier today, it was like people are really starting to get an understanding of whether they hedged their bets correctly with the person that they built themselves into or whether they hedged them wrong. Do you know what I mean?
That's good. Oh, it's true. It's also humbling because I'm I mean everybody I'm definitely taking that like yeah, there's opportunity there.
There's opportunity, and that's to me the most exciting thing about this. This is devastating. This is horrific. This is scary. This is all of those things, correct? I'm not an optimist and I'm not a pessimist. I'm a realist. So you can't discount all of the horror and the terror that's going on in yourself right now and outside of yourself.
Hmm.
But balance it with the fact that there is immense opportunity in here, in this moment, for you to explore yourself and observe yourself and explore the people outside of you and observe the people outside of you. And kind of take an audit of, wow, what's the kind of life that I built for myself? And how is that returning on my investment right now?
Yeah.
Did I invest in the
The
right things
you
for
talk
myself? Go ahead.
you, you talk about life currencies. How
Yeah.
does I only know a little bit about what you've mentioned with that, but how does that rethinking those right now and what does that mean to you? Like what is a life currency and then how are you reassessing that or like how can we?
I really appreciate that question. Thank you. life currencies are front and center right now for me in the way that I've been thinking, because the stuff that we're saying here is what I've been doing in my own life. I have been spending a lot of time in contemplative pondering about, well, so how did I hedge my bets? And, I talk about life currencies as the things that you grow wealth in your life. What are the currencies that are valuable to you in your life? For some people it's money, for some people it's safety, for some people it's peace of mind. For me, my 7 life currencies have really served me well in this time. I came to realize, so my life currencies, number 1 is peace of mind. Number 2 is flow, then growth, purpose, freedom, connectedness, and clarity. They're my 7 life currencies. And I look at money as a way that money is a resource, one of many, many resources that can help me build wealth in those life currencies. So, for example, having insurance, having home insurance, having business insurance, whatever, is a resource that builds into my peace of mind. Investing in preventative medicine, so eating well and exercising and, meditating, all of that is preventative medicine for me. That is an investment in peace of mind. Before this happened, shifted my world. A lot of that shifting was out of my hands. I was forced into the discomfort of a few life incidences that forced me to assess, well, what's going to serve you if all of this falls over again? Because is money really going to make you feel together? And I started seeking the things in my life that would make me feel whole and feel wealthy. And now I realize I hedge my bets well.
Yeah.
I invested in my own peace of mind, and I invested in understanding the science of flow in life, and listening to what I call the natural forces, which are like, how does the flow of life go? Like, if you just try and remain equanimous through it, if you push this way and it's pushing up against you, the net sum is sit the fuck down and just observe.
Yes. That's good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so all of that was really hard to do though, Jimmy. None of it was comfortable. All of it was like, I don't like this feeling. I hate the discomfort of this. In order for me to have peace of mind, I got to sort my mind out.
Yeah.
None of that's fun.
Yeah.
In order for me to have peace of mind, perhaps I need to look at the relationships I'm having in my life. And shit, that means I need to let some people go.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be fun, because some of those relationships have been there for 20 years. And none of that's the easy work, but it's been done. And so right now, my call to duty, my call to action is, how do I support people through this, having been through it myself? And it's a pleasure to be able to do that. To be able to just be present for people and support them through their version of this.
Yeah.
Because we're all being called to be of service in some way, right? Whether it be of ourselves, in service, being on the front line of this, being of service in other ways. This is just my way in that I'm able to be of service. I hope that answered. That was a very long answer. I'm sorry.
That was awesome. I hope my friends took notes. That was good. Starbucks partners took notes.
Lucky it's a podcast
Life,
and it'll
life
be up.
currency is. I just think that's it's brilliant. I think.
Thanks. I will write a book about it one day.
I think, and I've only heard it. I only heard it, just through you talking. I think probably on your podcast. And the peace of mind one has stuck till now. And I just think, like, man, is this worth? Like, am I building towards my own peace of mind?
It's the one thing no one can take from you.
Yeah.
No matter what happens. And look, that doesn't mean I don't have anxiety. I'm naturally, I grew up around dysfunction. And so my anxiety levels are naturally very high. I'm always ready for battle.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend towards depression a lot. So I've had to work very hard at monitoring that and observing myself while also trying to convince myself that I deserve better. And so in times like this, and I'm like you, Jimmy, I feel everything. I as an empath, I feel a lot. So when this is going on, I find it far too easy to imagine the trauma that people are going through.
Mm-hmm.
And having the skills, having invested in, like, how do I get peace of mind? It's like, all right, so when my anxiety triggers are turned on, what do I need to do? And sometimes it's as simple as I need to go bake cookies. Other times it's I need to call a mentor, or I need to just be still for 20 minutes, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm finding I need to go to those mechanisms much more often at the moment.
Yeah.
But
I like that you have the range of it's baking cookies to, like, meditating, because it's so true. Like, sometimes it's not complicated.
No, sometimes it's just I got to watch a Joe Coy video and just laugh myself silly. And just doing that for 2 minutes is like, all right, so it's stopped me from going down a rabbit hole that is going to end up in 2 weeks of sadness.
Yeah. Can I talk about a technique here?
Yes, please do.
So, again, I keep shouting out Catherine, because she's made an irreversible impact on my life.
Catherine at some point.
She likes you. I hope she's watching.
Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah. Catherine helped me out by getting me into this thing called EFT. So it's called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, and it's about tapping on. I'm going to say something. World, stay with me. Meridian points. Now, as being grown up,
I'm a big fan of meridian points.
I promise.
I'm a big fan of them.
So, as someone who grew up Christian, like, that is woo-woo, like, that is scary, and I'm already a spirit. Okay, what's meridian points? I don't want to, like... And, okay, after that panic, and I... Just because I was... and whatever, get better. I started doing this, and so it's about tapping on your meridian points. I'm going to just show you guys real quick and then explain. So,
yeah, make sure you explain for people who are listening.
So you're tapping your wrists together, and you're gonna Google search. I'm gonna throw out a couple names, and we can throw them in the show notes. Brad Yates, Julie Schiffman, the tapping solution, and you can just go. YouTube has tons of stuff, and from weird to normal, you're gonna find it. If you're hungry, you'll get it. But YouTube that, and you'll see videos. But you're tapping your wrists together, and you go through this setup statement. So it could be as simple as not your wrist. Haha. You tap a karate chop point with your hands. So from one hand, you tap your other. So you do the karate chop, take your other hand, tap right on the side of your hand, and you do a setup statement called, even though I feel all this anxiety, I choose to love and accept myself. And you just go through that 3 times. Then you tap through your body on these meridian points. So your head, above your eyebrow, your temple, under your eye, under your nose, under your chin, under your collarbone, bra strap area here. And there's other ones and people get all technical, but whatever, that's the same. And then yeah, there's the wrist. But you tap through those points, so you'd go like even like all of this anxiety, and you just start admitting to the emotion, all this anxiety. You kind of just go through this process of admitting what the F you're feeling, just owning the fact that like I feel like fucking shit.
Yeah.
Like I like because that's the actual emotion. Like it's not I feel crappy. It's no, I feel like shit.
Yeah.
And then you're owning it, and you're like I'm open to letting this go. And you kind of just go through this process of letting it go, but releasing self-love as it's not fully going to change maybe. And you can tap on anything and everything. I get creative with it. On like public speaking and fears and anxieties and just wanting to be more brave. I tapped on wanting to be more brave today. I tapped on anxiety today. And so what it has done, it is the easiest thing that I can take with me in my head, on the road, on the fly. As someone who spent a ton of time as a little mystical space cadet, I needed to be
mystical
humbled.
space cadet. I love that you describe yourself that
That
way.
was me. That was me, 20 years old. That was me just flying on the clouds with the Lord. And then I needed to get my ass humbled by life and learn the basics of actually taking care of my mind and my heart and my emotions. And then I feel like now my spirituality can actually come alive in a way it never could, because I'm actually controlling the pathways of all that energy, and I can get unstuck. It's like that knot in your back. You can't get stuck. This tapping, as simple as it is, and it's the most scientific thing. It's just giving yourself love. It's touch therapy. It's the same thing as acupuncture, except it's not invasive. So I want to take the woo-woo out of it. You're just changing the way your brains and your emotions are thinking about something, and you're touching yourself on areas that are like, how do you say it? Like sensitive to emotion. So it's easy for emotion to get in and out of it.
And for anyone who's uncomfortable with any of those terms and wants a more scientific kind of explanation of that, just go and look up the literature on vocalizing emotion. That's a really great place to start. And then you can start looking at the importance of meridian points. Because even if all you can do is vocalize the emotions that you're going through, it's an amazing place to start. And the idea of self-touch, it's a very intimate thing. You know, it touching the top of your head and your face. Touching your face is a very intimate thing that you do with yourself if you're doing it with intention. And so the gesture of all of that is very important in showing yourself a sense of importance. Like if you don't want to use the word love, showing yourself gratitude and intention and compassion by going through the space of, all right, I matter enough to me right now to carve the space in my day to vocalize what I'm feeling and to go to the trouble of touching my head and my face in order to show my self-care. Like whenever a child wants to show you that they care about you, they'll walk up to you and put their hand on your face. You know, that's a form of love. It's a form of affection. It's a form of all of that kind of stuff. So if you don't want to look at it in a way...
we're not, and we're desperate for touch in the North American culture.
Yeah.
I mean, desperate for touch.
Yeah. And it should start with you. You should be the first person that is cultivating that life currency for yourself. And so going through that is an important part of showing up, because you will not appreciate the way that other people show up for you or can show up for you or how you want them to show up for you if you're not carving that space to show up for yourself. You know? I really appreciate you sharing that, Jimmy. It's it wasn't front and center for me in what I've been looking at how to show up with self-care at the moment, but that's a really lovely one, so thank you.
Yeah, hopefully if people have questions, message me. I'll send you different links on the info.
Yeah.
But I do want to say this because just to continue to give landscape to what the world, our internal world, humans think between 50 and 80,000 thoughts a day.
Uh-huh.
Like that is either going to bombard you and be part of the typhoon that takes you out, or that is going to be able to build into like an amazing internal world.
Right.
And I don't mean amazing as like just again positive emotion. I mean something that is
And
substantial,
interesting.
made of character, interesting,
Right.
imaginative. You are your own creator in some ways of what goes on inside you. And I think the tapping thing has just helped me kind of build out the roads a little bit and control when traffic gets heavy in an area.
Yeah, yeah. If people want to ask Jimmy questions, in about half an hour from now, we're going to do an Instagram live, because what just felt like a half-hour conversation was actually an hour and a half. How did that happen? So 4 p.m. Pacific time, Jimmy and I are going to do an Instagram live at IMap It Forward. And what is your Instagram handle? Ecstatic Expressions, right?
Yeah, it's ecstatic_expressions. And there's a picture of Kermit
Because of
as my
course
face.
there is. What's your
Thank you.
affection with
Yes.
Kermit?
1 second. Kermit,
He even calls him to come over.
as as
That's wonderful.
he's made his way to the video for those who are on audio. I do not have a Kermit voice, and I don't know Kermit. Yeah, Jimmy, that's like not happening.
That's not Kermit.
So if you have a horrible Kermit voice, you're gonna share it. But Kermit,
My
I don't know.
gosh, how
He just showed
cute.
up. If I had a career in being a Muppet, I think he would. That would be great. I just I love Muppets. I think they're creative. I think they're fun. I think adults don't fool around enough. So
They
Kermit
don't
comes
play
with me,
enough.
especially on vacation. So then I don't have to take constant pictures of myself, but I can take pictures of me and Kermit, and
Bless.
it'll just be great.
Awesome. I think
I
that's
don't know if
super
there's a
cute.
reason outside of that.
Oh, I think it's adorable. So we might wrap this up. What a great conversation. I really appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much.
Hmm. You too.
It's going to be an interesting, I was going to say few months, but whatever the span of time is ahead. So people, find your community, and if you haven't found one, please come join us on Instagram Live every day so that we can be there for you, and that we can support you, and that we can show you that you are not alone, because things are going to get pretty challenging for a lot of us.
Hmm.
Even if you don't know anyone that's going to end up with coronavirus, you will be affected somehow. Every community is going to be affected. I think it's 151 countries now have confirmed cases. That's massive. Anyway, thank you for enlightening us with the tools that you've given us today, sir. And I hope that you and your team and everyone that works with you at Starbucks Reserve is safe and healthy and moving forward with
Thank you.
all the things that will empower them as they move through life after this.
Yeah. Thank you, Lee.
You're welcome. And we will see you on Instagram Live very, very soon.
Yeah. All right.
Peace, love, and peanut
Bye.
butter, everyone. Have an amazing rest of your day.